Welcome to the New Arrivals Road Safety Programme, developed by Vic Roads and the Transport Accident Commission. This recorded training is brought to you by the Wimmera Development Association and DEPS Driver Education Training Services. All the information presented is correct at March 2021. Please check for amendments to road rules if viewing at a future date. My name is Sarah and I'll be hosting this session for you. Session 4, walking, cycling and using public transport. In this session, we'll be focusing on rules and tips for pedestrians, safety for pedestrians at tram stops, bus stops and railway crossings, rules and tips for cyclists, and rules and tips for drivers to share the road safely with pedestrians and cyclists. Crossing roads when people are walking. It's essential that you follow the rules and take care when crossing the road. This is because most people walking who are injured or killed while crossing the road. This video is going to show us how to use pedestrian crossings with traffic lights safely.
Pedestrian crossings with traffic lights. Always wait for the green man signal before crossing. Make sure all traffic is stopping before you start to cross. Stay alert. Look and listen for traffic as you cross. If the flashing red man signal starts while you are crossing, don't worry. You still have time to finish crossing. Continue walking across with care. You must not start to cross on the red man signal, even if it is flashing. At intersections, even with traffic lights, it is important to always look out for turning vehicles. Drivers must give way to you, but sometimes they may not see you. Check for vehicles turning right and left into the road you are crossing. At intersections, always look out for turning vehicles. Remember, always obey the pedestrian crossing signals. Look out for traffic that may not have seen you.
So to summarise, always wait for the green man signal before crossing. Make sure all traffic is stopping before you start to cross. Stay alert, look and listen for traffic as you cross. If the flashing red man signal starts while you are crossing, don't worry, you still have time to finish crossing. Continue safely across. However, you must not start to cross on the red man signal, even if it is flashing. At intersections, even with traffic lights, it is important always to look out for turning vehicles. Drivers must give way to you, but sometimes they may not see you. Always hold hands with any younger children at any time when walking on or near the roads. Pedestrian crossings with traffic lights, some tips for drivers. Always stop when lights are red. You must not block the pedestrian crossing. When turning at an intersection, drivers must give way to pedestrians crossing the road they are turning into, even if the pedestrian is doing the wrong thing and crossing against a red pedestrian signal. You have a duty of care, as do all road users, to act safely to avoid collision. Using pedestrian crossings and children's crossings. This video is going to take us through how to safely use pedestrian crossings and children's crossings.
Using pedestrian crossings and children's crossings. Using pedestrian crossings. Before you cross, you need to look and listen for approaching traffic from each direction. Be sure that drivers or riders have seen you. Think about whether it is safe before you cross. Only cross when the traffic in the lane closest to you is stopping. Make sure drivers in other lanes have seen you and are also stopping. Using children's crossings.
Okay, so to recap on using the pedestrian crossings, before crossing, stop, look and listen for approaching traffic and be sure that drivers have seen you and that it's safe to cross. Only cross when traffic in the lane closest to you is stopping. Make sure drivers in other lanes have seen you and are also stopping.
Drivers must stop and give way to all pedestrians only when the flags are displayed. At some children's crossings, you will find a crossing supervisor. Follow the instructions of the crossing supervisor if there is one. If there isn't a supervisor, look and listen for traffic before you cross. Think about whether drivers and riders have seen you. Make sure all traffic has stopped before stepping onto the crossing. Only cross when you know it is safe to do so. Stay alert. Keep looking and listening for traffic while you cross. Remember, make sure all traffic is stopping before you step onto the crossing.
Okay, so to recap on the children's crossings, drivers must stop and give way to all pedestrians only when the flags are displayed. Follow the instructions of the crossing supervisor if there is one. Make sure that all the traffic is stopped before stepping onto the crossing. Only cross when you know it is safe to do so. And stay alert, keep looking and listening for traffic while you cross. Some tips for drivers using pedestrian crossings and children's crossings. You must not overtake a vehicle stopping or stopped at the crossing. You must stop if a child or adult is about to cross or is crossing, even if there is no crossing supervisor. You must stop if a handheld stop sign is displayed. You must proceed only when all children and adults, including the supervisor, are clear of the crossing. You must approach at a speed slow enough to stop safely if necessary. Drivers should always watch out for children near schools. This video is going to take us through crossing at intersections without traffic lights.
Crossing at intersections without traffic lights. Drivers are required to give way to pedestrians crossing the road the driver is turning into. Keep looking for turning vehicles. Make sure you have been seen and that the driver will give way to you. Drivers proceeding straight through or turning out of the road a pedestrian is crossing do not have to give way to the pedestrian, even though they may be facing a give way or stop sign. The best thing is to plan your walking route to include safe crossing points and avoid crossing at busy intersections without traffic lights. Use marked pedestrian crossings where possible. Remember, at intersections without traffic lights, drivers have to give way to pedestrians crossing the road that the driver is turning into. Pedestrians should always make sure vehicles are stopping.
So to summarise crossing at intersections without traffic lights, drivers are required to give way to pedestrians crossing the road the driver is turning into. Keep looking for turning vehicles. Make sure you've been seen and that the driver will give way to you. Drivers proceeding straight through or turning out of the road a pedestrian is crossing do not have to give way to the pedestrian, even though they may be facing a give way or stop sign. The best thing is to plan your walking route to include safe crossing points and avoid crossing at busy intersections without traffic lights. Use marked pedestrian crossings where possible. Crossing at intersections without traffic lights. Some tips for drivers. You need to look out for pedestrians and you must give way to pedestrians crossing the road you are turning into. You have a duty of care, as do all road users, to act safely and to avoid a collision. This video is going to take us through mid-block crossings.
Mid-block crossings. Choosing a safe place to cross. Where there is no marked pedestrian crossing available, you need to choose a safe place to cross. Avoid crossing at places with a limited view of approaching traffic. Crests of a hill can restrict your view of traffic. Bends in the road make it difficult to see traffic and to be seen by drivers. Parked cars, shrubs, signs, or other things on the roadside also make it difficult to see or be seen. Choose a place to cross where you can see approaching traffic and drivers have a clear view of you. If possible, choose places where there are facilities to help you cross. For example, Cross where there is a curb extension. Use a pedestrian refuge. On a divided road, use the median strip if there is one. Always wait for a safe gap in the traffic when crossing. You should always plan your walking route to include safe crossing points. Make use of marked pedestrian crossings where possible. Remember to always choose a safe place to cross and wait for a safe gap in the traffic.
So to summarise mid-block crossings, avoid crossing at places with a limited view of approaching traffic. This includes crests of hills and bends in roads. Parked cars, shrubs, signs and other things on the roadside also make it difficult to see or to be seen. Choose a place to cross where you can see approaching traffic and drivers have a clear view of you. If possible, choose places where there are facilities to help you cross. These include a curb extension, a pedestrian refuge, or the median strip on a divided road if there is one. Plan your walking route to include safe crossing points. Mid-block crossings, some tips for drivers. You need to look out for people walking who are crossing the road and should always expect the unexpected, such as people crossing near bends or crests, between parked cars or hidden from view by roadside objects such as signs. Older people who move slowly or don't see or hear the approaching traffic. Children running onto the road without looking or seeing your vehicle, particularly around schools. People affected by alcohol, especially near hotels and bars. And people who just don't know the rules. This video is going to take us through pedestrians and roundabouts.
Pedestrians and roundabouts. Single and multi-lane roundabouts can be tricky for pedestrians because they have different rules to other intersections. Pedestrians must give way to all vehicles at roundabouts. Crossing at single-lane roundabouts. Look in all directions before crossing. Only cross when it is safe to do so. Use the splitter island as you cross if there is one. At some roundabouts, there are pedestrian crossings. Make sure you use them. At multi-lane roundabouts, pedestrians need to take even more care. Not only do they need to give way, but traffic moves quickly. It's hard to choose a safe time to cross. Use the pedestrian facilities provided or plan a different route and find a safer place to cross. Remember, pedestrians must always give way to vehicles at roundabouts.
So to recap on pedestrians and roundabouts, pedestrians must give way to all vehicles at roundabouts. Look in all directions before crossing. Only cross when it is safe to do so, and use the splitter island as you cross if there is one. At some roundabouts, there are pedestrian crossings. Make sure that you use those if they're available. At multi-lane roundabouts, pedestrians need to take even more care. You not only need to give way, but traffic moves quickly. It's hard to choose a safe time to cross. Use the pedestrian facility provided or plan a different route and find a safer place to cross. Pedestrians and roundabouts, some tips for drivers. You have a duty of care, as do all the road users, to act safely and to avoid collisions. You may need to allow for pedestrians making mistakes and not being totally sure of the road rules. You need to watch for pedestrians who may not know that they need to give way particularly. You must always signal if turning so your intention is clear to other drivers and pedestrians. Safety for pedestrians at tram stops. When boarding a tram from a curbside stop, wait for all traffic to stop completely before you walk out onto the road to board the tram. Wait for passengers to get off the tram before you board. When getting off the tram, always watch your step and check for traffic. At a super stop or safety zone, make sure you always stand behind the line marking. Do not lean against the safety railing. Never lean or walk out into the path of oncoming trams or traffic. Once you're off the tram, make sure that the road is clear or traffic has stopped before you cross. Never walk out behind a tram to cross tram tracks, as you may not see trams coming in the opposite direction. Safety for pedestrians at bus stops. Don't attempt to approach the bus until it has stopped. Stand back from the curb as the bus pulls in. Wait until the bus has stopped and the door has opened before approaching the bus. Allow passengers to get off before boarding the bus. Watch your step and use the handrail. After you get off the bus, don't attempt to cross the road in front of or behind the bus. Wait until the bus has driven away before crossing the road. Safety for pedestrians at railway level crossings. Cross railway lines at marked crossings only, and always obey all warning signals and signs. You must not cross at a level crossing if warning lights are flashing, warning bells are ringing, a gate, boom or barrier is closing, a train is approaching or entering the crossing. When waiting at a crossing, stop one step back from the edge of the crossing before looking and listening in all directions for approaching trains. Think about when it is safe to cross. This is when the tracks are clear and there are no trains approaching. If a train is coming, wait for it to pass, then stop, look, listen, and think again before crossing. Another train may be coming. Safe cycling, wear a helmet. In Victoria, all bike riders and their passengers and scooter riders are required to wear a bike helmet. Research indicates that bike helmets greatly reduce the risk of head injuries, which are the major cause of death and injury to bike riders. You must wear a helmet when riding on roads, bike paths, bike lanes, shared or separated footpaths, in recreational parks and in car parks. When choosing a bike helmet, make sure it fits firmly and comfortably on your head and cannot be tilted in any direction. The straps can be adjusted so that there's no slack when fastened, and that it has a sticker showing the Australian and New Zealand safety standard. Choosing safer routes to ride. Throughout Victoria, there's a network of off-road bicycle paths which provide a safer alternative to riding on the road. If you need to ride on the road, plan routes that take you on roads with bicycle lanes or local streets without much traffic. Do your best to avoid busy or high-speed roads. Make sure you can be seen. It's more likely that you'll be seen by drivers if you wear a brightly coloured top that makes you stand out. There are also reflective vests or similar accessories that you may want to consider wearing to improve your chances of being seen. Take extra care when cycling at night. Try to ride on well-lit roads. At night, you must have a white light flashing or steady on the front of your bike, a red light flashing or steady on the back of your bike, and a red reflector on the back of your bike. The lights must be visible from 200 metres and the reflector visible from 50 metres. Rules and tips for safe cycling. The road laws for cycling must be obeyed in the same way as any other vehicle on the road, and you need to stay alert to all the traffic around you. So ride in the same direction as other traffic and keep your bicycle 1 metre from the curb if possible. You must use a bicycle lane if there is one on the road that's heading in the same direction as you, and that is practical to use. So obviously if there's an obstruction, you'll need to go around that. You must obey traffic control signs and signals, including red lights, stop and give way signs. You can only ride on the footpath if you're a child under 12 years of age or an adult supervising a child under the age of 12. Before changing lanes and turning, always scan behind and signal your intention to other road users. You can use your arms on the left or the right to indicate which direction you're planning to go. You must not ride on the left side of a vehicle that is indicating left and turning at an intersection. Stay in the traffic lane behind the turning vehicle instead. Always look out for other road users, particularly when they're approaching you from behind or pulling out in front of you. Look out for drivers and passengers getting in and out of parked cars and be aware of the risk of car doors opening. And finally, sharing the road with cyclists. Some more tips for drivers. Car drivers need to share the road safely and look out for cyclists. Watch out for bike riders at intersections and roundabouts. Be patient and allow at least 1 metre of space when passing a cyclist, more if travelling over 60 kilometres per hour. If this isn't possible, don't overtake until it's safe to do so. After overtaking, make sure you are well clear of the bicycle before moving back in front of them. Do not drive in bicycle lanes. Give way to bike riders and in bicycle lanes if you are turning across their lane. Indicate when pulling out, changing lanes or turning so bike riders know your intentions. Get into the habit of always using your mirrors and doing a head check before opening your car door. One way to do this is to open the car door with your left hand. Bike riders can travel quickly and may be much closer than you think, so do use judgment when you're assessing their speed. Thank you for watching this presentation. For more information, please visit any of the following websites.